This morning's session is almost hands-on, but I'm going to be talking a little bit about how you can make it more hands-on a little afterwards, if you're interested. So just to give you a teaser on that, one of my other roles in this world is I'm creating a literary festival for Eastbourne. And to do that, I'm trying to use technology to enable most of it. If anyone here wants to code with me on some of the apps we will use in the festival, whether that be part of a project that's at college, school, university, or whether you just want to do it because you want to learn some skills from me by actually coding with me on some things, then that's an offer I make. Okay, I'm particularly interested in creating a literary tour of Eastbourne where you go and find AR books around town, collect them all, and maybe get into a competition to win a ticket to the festival or something like that. I've only come up with these ideas that quickly, but you'll have better ones. But I want to say that to you now. If anyone is interested in getting into coding and getting into building some stuff, even if you're not interested in coding, you're just getting interested in building stuff, and you fancy getting into a little project that will actually have impact on the town, then just reach out. Okay. Right, so this is talk. Does anyone know who that rather impressive looking bearded gentleman is?
Music producer.
It is a music producer. Yes. Do you know who he produced that he's most famous for?
There were many artists he produced for.
Yeah. But the earliest one was Beastie Boys.
Oh, Beastie Boys, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
So this is Rick Rubin. And Rick is famous for pointing out what he doesn't know. He doesn't know how to play an instrument, particularly well. He doesn't really know how to work a mixing desk, which must be complicated for a producer, right? But what he does have is confidence in his taste. He has awareness and literacy around what great music can be. He knows how it feels. And he's brought in by these incredible artists to help them create something powerful and impactful. He's the metaphor for what you need to be when you're coding with AI. It is your taste, your sensibilities, your awareness of what good code looks like, what good systems look like. You become the producer in the arrangement. Now, when I was working very early in my career, some of you have just finished university now, I remember it well. I think I was taught C and C++. I don't know if they're still teaching these days. But yeah, C and C++ was all they really taught me. And I had one message from university that I took with me for the rest of my career. I'll share it a little later on. So yeah, they taught C and C++. I coded 3 systems in C and C++. The Harrier jump jet, the Eurofighter Typhoon, and I think I created a small library for someone to use. At the same time, I worked in other languages and systems to create Netflix, Disney, streaming, not Disney itself. I'm not that old. But Disney streaming, multitude of apps, multitude of financial systems. And what I think is important to remember when you're at the beginning of your journey, whatever age you're at, is that in software development, there was something mentioned earlier on these forums that we did in a previous session. The curiosity thing is huge. I could say I'm a good learner, but I'm only a good learner because I'm curious. I could say I'm a good listener, but I'm only a good listener because I'm curious. And it's the same thing with all of the AI stuff I'm going to share with you today. I want you to be curious about it. I want you to be brave, courageous, try it out. Try and explore differently with these tools. Okay, some of the stuff I'm going to share is going to be a little leading edge. When I say a little leading edge, I don't mean technically. Technology-wise, I think it's already there. But in terms of how it's thought about and approached, we're going to discuss things here that people, software developers, professional software developers of many, many years of experience are not yet doing. They will in the next 5 years. But they're not doing some of these things yet. This is supposedly a scary moment, where I'm hearing a lot from particularly junior software developers going, what is my job now? What am I trying to do? And the good news is really that it's not in any way a first time around this particular journey. I've been here a lot. If you've been around in tech long enough, you realize that actually it's a wheel. It comes around again. In my early days, I was working on something called 4GLs. fourth generation languages. I think we've stopped giving generations to languages now, thank goodness. But 4GLs were, you can draw a program and it will just bring the program to life. Is that familiar? A lot of that's still now. There's a reason we still use text to create programs. It turns out to be one of the best mediums to express something clearly and with a degree of complexity that is essential to the problem you're solving. Diagrams are great, but they're abstractions and they only go so far, which is why 4GLs, by the way, died. I'm still writing text for all of my code. There's nothing wrong with that. Text is a great medium to work with these systems. That doesn't mean there aren't fabulous tools to build things quickly, prototype, and even go to production. But part of the game here, particularly when you're doing AI augmented coding, is your literacy is going to become a crucial skill. How you express yourself is going to become an incredibly important skill. Okay, so it's not the first time we've been here. Let me talk about some of the complaints from the past. I should start with one starting point. I mentioned I'm creating a literary festival. This here is probably the oldest thing that's ever been in this room. Pardon me. This book is from 1578. It should be in the museum, Indiana Jones would say. It is one of 8 now in the world. 2 in the Vatican, one's in Oxford, one's in Cambridge. I mention it because this book is representative of one of the times when the whole world went, oh my goodness, it's all changed. This book was one of those early prototypes for what became the print revolution, for the mass-produced print revolution. In 1440, I think that's where we're going to go next, we had this sort of book being printed. And at the time, there were complaints. Similar complaints as you would hear about AI today. Complaints like, the craft is being cheapened. What are we now having to think about? Our brains aren't grappling with code so much anymore. Do I have to be good at C and C++, or one of the other languages I get taught? And in fact, the complaint back then was books produced by printing are utterly devoid of grace. They stink of the press, not of the pen. I hear this from developers now. How did you create your code? Created it on my machine. How did you create your code? Created it with Claude Code. And yet, when I take that code and place it in front of someone with no knowledge of how I created it, they can't tell the difference. We also got complaints back in 1440 and 1578. Errors will multiply and learning will decline. We'll all get dumber. Have we heard that one? Once an error is cast in type, it becomes immortal. Yes. Okay. I mention these things because in 1440, these were the concerns. They sound so familiar to today. So this is what somebody called the accuracy complaint. The complaints, by the way, will become the same. Okay, we'll lose our livelihoods. I talk to junior devs a lot at the moment. I talk to people at the beginnings of their educational life, in fact, where they're considering, do I go into software? Do I go into development? Should I be even, is this even going to exist? And the answer is very simply yes. Every skill I've got is magnified by what AI can help me do. Nothing is detracting from what I am capable of. And it's the same for you. It's an augmentation of your abilities. That's why I use AI augmented coding. I don't say making the AI code. You're collaborating with it. So no, in no way are we going to be losing our livelihoods. But everyone thought they might do it in 1440 as well, when this sudden new technology of print came around. Knowledge will fall into the wrong hands. I've heard that a lot in companies. Suddenly, developers are going to be able to develop things. How are we going to know if they're doing work or not? How do we know if they're remote workers? How do we know if they're busy? Whenever you're working with a company, if their question is how busy are you, worry. Because in software development, most of our work doesn't happen in any measurable means of being busy. I've set people once with this. They said to me, what does software development look like? And in fact, the manager was walking me around the halls of of their company. And this was back in the day when we had these sort of battery hen ideas, where we put people at desks staring at each other over screens, tapping away. And the manager was really impressed. He said, Russ, listen to that. I'm like, oh, I think, what am I listening to? Like you are now. He said, that is the sound of productivity. I said, no, that is the sound of Facebook. Or is that the sound of organizing my weekend? That is not where software development ever happened. Writing code is never where it happened. I used to tell people I do my best software development when I'm in the shower. It's awkward to pair programming. I do some of my best coding when I'm out walking the dog, when I'm out enjoying life and I'm getting new ideas. There's a whole part of your brain that gets engaged when you no longer have to focus on a screen. AI actually makes that easier. You get more opportunity to have moments like that. Creativity, we talked about earlier the different categories of skills. Creativity is what you are in software. You're a creative individual and you're creating something new in the world. How you get there can be as short a circuit as you want to make it. Okay, so the moral complaint, it's going to be in the wrong hands. We're going to give the power to the wrong people. Always forgets that we might give it to the right people. Readers will become lazy. I've heard this a lot these days. Like, you're going to become lazy readers because it's too easy to read print books. It's too easy to create software these days because AI is going to do it all for you. You're going to become lazy. Your brain is going to become less cognitively involved. You're going to lose faculties. There's very little evidence of this. There are scare parts of it. There's very little evidence. And actually what you see is a pattern. Every time there's a revolution in cognitive demands on humans, you see a dip and you see a raise. There was a dip when books were printed. There was a raise when Plantin printed his books, and suddenly everyone in Europe could own a book. The collective cognitive literacy went through the roof. Okay, so just for fun, I've got another quick set to show you that this is a pattern. This is a circular pattern that's happening all the time in our industry. In the 80s, showing my age here. Everyone here's going, what, back then? I wasn't even born. Well, I was. And I remember that look when the synthesizer came out, the sampler. And guess what? The complaints were the same. Real musicianship will die. Now it's too easy to create music. It used to be a craft. We used to have to learn our instrument. We used to have to be fantastic at great work with all our scales. Now, what's this guy doing? He's just taking a sample of things, he's rejigging it, and then suddenly he's got a top 10 hit. The craft is dying. Okay, we'll all be out of work. You see, the message is continuous. Because now you can just sample, now you can just use the technology to do it. All of the skills are gone. My personal favorite, audiences will stop listening. My reason this is my personal favorite is because the person who said the quote, when music is effortless to make, it becomes effortless to forget. Brian Eno single-handedly created much of the electronic music ecosystem and business, but actually didn't think much of it when it started. So even we can get it wrong. Even people that are part of it, making it happen, can start to feel that we're going the wrong way. Copying is bad. In software, copying is everything. Copying great code, seeing great code, reading great code, understanding why it's great, understanding why the system is good, understanding the architectural nuances of what you've built. One of the things you're going to learn is that there's a world of difference between a prototype, a demo, and when 1,000 people are using it, or 5,000, or in my case, over 60 million. As soon as you get there, you start to go, everything we knew was wrong. But that doesn't mean that we can't build with that in mind and still do great prototyping. So yeah, the moral complaint. Okay. And now the same message, right? AI is now the problem. We've got the AI of the craft is being cheapened, right? Again, our skills are becoming no longer. Where's the craftness in this? We're generating code now. Writing code, I'm going to keep saying this, Writing code was never the point. What we wanted to do was make machines do something useful. Bear that in mind. Developers will stop thinking. No, you start thinking about something else. Look at all of those skills you've got on those bits of paper, those were in the previous session. All of those skills are something that you could get good at if you've given the headroom to not have to worry about the code you're writing so much. That doesn't mean you don't have to have a sensitivity to what great code is, but it does mean that you can think about other things a little bit more. We have limited brains. Does anyone know how many things we can juggle in short-term memory at once? One by any? We do a test and see so we can get there, but I won't really put. It's about 5 to 7. After that, and you can chunk, right? So 5 to 7 things. What is a thing can be debatable. So you can take a really long number, chunk it into 2 or 3 pieces, and you'll be okay. So think about that. That's a tiny amount of memory that you're playing with. Your cognitive faculties are limited. So using that better is the game. When we're doing AI augmented coding, we're trying to use your cognitive faculties better. We're not trying to remove your cognitive faculties. So no, you will not stop thinking, you will not get lazier. You'll just be thinking about other things. And we'll lose our jobs. I hope I've reiterated now. I don't think anyone's losing their jobs in software. There's something called Jevons paradox. Does anyone know Jevons paradox at all? Okay. This was back when coal was being produced for the industrial age. And what was shown that was by producing more coal increased demand for coal. Now, I know that right now sustainability would say it's a terrible idea, what a terrible paradox. But it works the same for almost any big change in technology. By taking away the burden of one thing, we increase the demand for it to happen. Companies that in the past have said we can't afford to build this thing, we have to go and do something else, are now saying yes, we can, because of the speed of delivery, the speed of working with technology. So the demand only increases. If someone's, well, my daughter's 16, she's asked me, should she get into technology? The answer is yes. For whatever facet, she's interested in psychology. Absolutely get into technology. The human experience of technology is going to be the forefront of everything we do. So yeah, it's not going away. There's no economic complaint to be made. And yet, and this is the point here, each leap in knowledge technology, from script to print to samplers, from print to digital and digital to AI, we all get frightened that it's going to change. It is going to change everything, but it changes it with new opportunities in mind. We always think we're going to lose craft, control, truth, purpose. And each time, the medium eventually expands literacy. Now, I imagine when you hear the word literacy, you probably think of reading books, learning from that sort of thing. That's particularly if you're in academia, this is where you'll come from. But literacy is a much broader term. It's your understanding of certain concepts. It's your ability to navigate problem space. It's your way of taking agency and control over something. Literacy is empowerment of humans in whatever medium you're working with, whatever problem space you're navigating. And so whenever there is this moment of a new platform coming to place, like AI, there is a sudden, usually surprising impact on literacy, usually positive, as people become literate with the new approaches. So this is absolutely key to what I'm going to show you now. I'm going to try to make you, in the next few minutes, literate with AI engineering. I'm going to help you understand conceptually how it feels, how you're going to work with it, what you're going to worry about, what you're not going to worry about. Okay. And just to hammer it home, literacy is always about agency. The more literate you are with something, you get to shape the meaning of it. You get to be the one that's going to tell it how to operate. You get to be the Rick Rubin. Okay, so pre-2020s software literacy for me, and often is taught still on university programs, is memorize syntax and frameworks, write functions, debug manually, comment on your code, although these days commenting code is a difficult automation. I mean, there's an interesting fallacy here. I don't know if you've ever heard the Kevin Henning fallacy of documentation in code. His point is, if you can't write clear code in the first place, what makes you think the person writing unclear code could write clear documentation? So yeah, there's code commenting, we talk about and optimizing performance. Literacy now, understanding semantics and context, understanding the meaning of what you're building, composing prompts, note-taking, prompt journaling, spec-driven, guiding agents to create what you need in the way you have sensitivities and the literacy to understand what is good. Code debug with AI, interpret explanations, see what it's doing, see its limitations, understand its limitations, understand your AI's biases. Who's here used ChatGPT? Don't worry, I'm not going to tell any professors. Cool, great. What's the first thing ChatGPT invariably says to you the moment you ask it to do something? Great, you're so smart, you're wonderful. Oh, I love working with you. It's almost that level, okay? It's a pleaser. It's going to tell you whatever you're doing is wonderful because it's trying to get you to use it more. It's pure manipulation. Worth knowing that, because it's lying to you most of the time. It could be a terrible idea. We were creating an application earlier to do emojis around Eastbourne. I'm not sure anyone needs this in their lives. But ChatGPT was telling me it was the best thing he'd ever seen since sliced bread and probably was going to make me a millionaire. It's lying. That's okay, because I know it lies. Optimizing collaboration between the human and the model. You can only optimize that collaboration when you understand the models. And in particular, the understand the model you're working with. Okay, so pre-AI, we needed the ability to read, write, and reason about code, and then to understand the larger context in the system we're working with. Now, that literacy is all about understanding, communicating, and shaping your computational system as you go. It's changed. This is why people are scared. Okay, so to be literate, I want you, in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you how to think, read, write, and reason with a coding agent. I'm going to show you how to do it in ways that are better than most developers are doing in companies right now. Okay, so first of all, let's understand our collaborator. Has anyone here coded with an agent? Cool. Which one? Keep your hand raised if they're Claude, or if it's GitHub Copilot. Oh, that's an interesting one. Okay, cool. I'd love to know from you what you're using and how you're finding it. I'm going to be talking about my experience with Claude. So understand the collaborator. Metaphors really matter with AI. So meet the genie. My favorite metaphor is a genie. But it's not actually a genie. It's certainly not that one. Okay, much as I love Robin Williams, he's not who I have in my head when I'm coding with the genie. When I'm coding with the genie, it's definitely not that one. It's more like that one. A genie, perhaps. Something that is malicious at times, certainly capricious, unpredictable, chaotic. Something that's incredibly ready to please me. I've got my 3 wishes. My first wish is I'd like you to create me a new application. Brilliant idea. I'll do that for you. Here it is. It's perfect. It works. And then you run it and it doesn't. Okay? Because it's there to please. It's powerful. There's no doubt. I'll show you in a minute how wonderfully powerful it can be. But is it truly helpful? For me, yes, it is. Because it opens cognitive function, cognitive space to think about other things when I'm coding. Okay, and don't forget, in all this, you're going to be the producer. The first thing to look at is prompt-driven. I imagine most people who've worked with coding has done prompt-driven development, where they're asking the genie or the djinn to do something for them, involve something. Okay, so a day in the life of prompt engineering. So back to me as Rick. By the way, if I could grow that beard, I would. I've got the hairline pretty much. Generate a new Spring Boot application. Don't worry, you don't have to know what that is, because neither does Claude, by the way. I want a new Spring Boot application that includes some rules about how Claude's supposed to operate according to golden paths. I want the golden rules that Claude is going to suggest. That might sound like
yeah, the Genie's going to mark their own homework. What I'm asking the Genie for is tell me what others tend to tell you when you're creating Spring Boot applications. Give me some spec here. The only reason I can ask that question is because I know what good looks like. I've had to educate me to know what a Spring Boot application is supposed to be. I'm very lucky. I created Spring Boot, so I can tell you what it's supposed to do and how it's supposed to look. What I can't do is always understand everything that Claude produces. But anyway, I did this and it worked pretty well. I think what we got out of it was actually quite good. So sure, the Genie has done a good job. Right. Next thing, I'm going to go and fix stuff. So first of all, what it generated was way out of date, full of security holes. Wrong version of Java. Don't worry if you don't know Java. You don't need to, because neither does Claude. I can say to it, I don't want that version. And it goes ahead into a horrible loop of trying to fix it, which it did. It got there in the end. And I could tell, again, because of my taste and sensibilities, I could go and look at the code and go, yeah, that looks right. You've done the right thing. I also asked it, can you update the build command docs to use the MV or Maven W? I don't know. That command, the one I'm most familiar with. And it did. And I could look at the README and I go, that looks right. Again, my taste, my sensitivities. I'm the producer. Okay, so thinking, all done. The Genie did everything I wanted. I started to get nervous. Is anyone here familiar with the fact that you should do small commits?
Yeah.
Right, the reason you do small commits, small changes, is because humans have to understand what you've done. There are a lot of AI developers out there at the moment, engineers, that will say, doesn't matter how big your commit is, because the AI is the only thing that needs to understand it now. Back to my point, you're in a collaborative relationship. Everyone's brain, if you was to do a Venn diagram of everyone involved, it's AI, it's you, and it's everyone who's ever going to read your code, which is always going to be humans out there that are going to need to, as well as other AIs. So you write for the cognitive limitations of the human. So small commits are huge when you're working in companies. Okay, so I asked Claude to abide by these rules. I didn't write them myself. I asked it to write them for me. And it turns out it did a pretty good job. Again, my taste, my sensitivities, I can see what's good out of this. Okay, once again, the Genie's doing well. Now I'm into a fix loop. I also knew I needed a certain type of testing. Okay, how did I know this? Well, I've got many, many years of development experience. I also could have easily read a book that said, make sure you test a certain way for this type of application. The good news is I could read the book, I could understand the rationale behind it that says, when you're doing microservice testing, you do sort of testing. This is all production knowledge. So all I need to say to Claude, can you do that for me? Can you add microservice-friendly testing? It did that. Okay, so all done again. And actually it wasn't bad, but it failed. It created tests that all failed. I didn't mind, because at least I could see what was failing. And then I did something stupid. I forgot I was the producer. I suddenly thought I was the sound engineer. I was the mixing desk person. So I started to go, oh, maybe I should fix the test this way. Stupid. Claude's created the mess. I know there's a mess. I have feedback that tells me there's a mess. I have a specification, the tests, which look good to me, that were failing. So I suddenly had an epiphany. Why am I fixing that? You make the mess. Could you fix this? And that's what I did. I said, can you go and fix failures until this command here passes with no failures? Now, before you ever run this, if you haven't done this before you run this, make sure you've got lots of token headroom in your usage of the agent, because it is going to use up tokens like no tomorrow as it goes through a fixed loop. Round and round and round. Now, there's many customizations or configurations you can apply to customize exactly what it gets sent. But when you're doing a broad fixed loop like this, you are going to eat tokens, almost regardless of how much constraint you want to apply. So, but I did. I asked it to fix some failures, and I sat back and watched my bank account drain. But it worked. And then I said, there's some type safety warnings. Can you package a Docker image? I'm still working well on that. The thing that blew my mind was not that it could fix its own problems, but when I ran everything up in Docker, the first thing Docker said for my container is your stuff is full of security problems. Full of them. And if you ever worked with software development teams in a big company, they would dread that note. Because they're sitting there going, we've got features to build. And now we're going to need to understand these critical vulnerabilities. We're going to need to understand how to rebuild our software. We're going to look at what hardening means. Now, think about your cognitive limitations. All of that is burden. All of that is burden that you don't have to have. Because getting better at security in this case is achievable because you've got a verification. You've got these CVEs being highlighted by Docker. You've got the validation and verification that this is broken. You can then say, as I did to Jimmy, can you fix them all, please? And I can sit back and verify what it actually did. And it did. It fixed all my high critical vulnerabilities with very little interaction from me, but quite a lot of token usage. Okay. So what can I learn from that experience? What can I share with you from that experience? This is going to be how you test the waters. This is going to be your starting point. You've got to remember what the genie is. It's really good at hallucinating. It forgets stuff, and it's not very good at learning from what you've done. Or at least it's selective in what it seems to learn from what you've done. Which means it's misleading in its correctness. I'm done. It's good, but it's broken. You get misaligned code that doesn't relate to what you asked for in the first place. One of the most interesting examples to do is say, I've got failing tests, can you fix it? And it does, it deletes the tests. If you have no failing tests. So you've got to be aware that's bad. You've got to know that test-driven development is a good thing. You've got to know what good tests look like. You've got to educate yourself on behavior-driven development. Again, that argument that you're going to become lazy as a developer, forget it. You're going to become great at understanding what great code looks like. You're going to become readers. You're going to become understanders, less than writers. You're just going to know when something's written. In fact, if you think about it this way, it's like a publisher. You're going to become great editors. You're going to know what is great when someone's trying to write a book. You can't write the topic, but you can understand what great's supposed to look like. Okay, so when you're shallow, you get a lack of reasoning as well. But literacy is about that agency, and using AI augmented coding in this way, with that sensitivity, with that role in mind, that the genie is not a benevolent actor. It's trying to please you, and it's capricious, and it's shallowly understanding anything you're saying. You can still do some incredible work with it if you have that sensitivity to what good looks like. So to be literate is to be sovereign over your system, to question, to test and guide it. That's your job now. Your job has gone from being, can I write a good line of Python, to can I understand a good line of Python? It's gone from can I write a large-scale Golang or Java application to can I recognize one when it's working? And can I understand what high quality looks like? And can I see its relationship to the context I'm actually trying to solve in? Okay, your special skill is your taste. Develop it. Get to know what great looks like. Fortunately, we've got GitHub. It's full of examples of code. I can't say it's full of great examples, but it's full of examples. One of the things I do when I go to companies, I encourage them to create code reading groups. These are groups that get together and critique code, because that's what I'm trying to do, develop taste. What does good look like? And it's great fun, by the way. It sounds awfully boring, but it's actually really good fun. Particularly you get people arguing over whether it's a good line of code or not. And if you get anyone here to code Scala, fantastic. The reason I say fantastic, I've never found a language that encourages arguments about what a good line of code is as much as Scala. I've wasted days listening to those arguments.
It's finding out the code on GitHub, I think, or something like that.
Sorry, what's that?
Is it about critiquing code on GitHub, like searching random?
Yeah, looking for snippets.
Yeah.
Creating examples. One of the things I'd like to do, consider maybe with everyone here, is to create a little repository of great things to go and look at. So one of the things I have in my mind is to create some sort of literacy hub for coding so that we can help people build that sensitivity. I can't build your sensitivity to the domain you're working in. That's yours. That's your context. I can help you build literacy in terms of understanding and reading code. And that, I think, is worthwhile. Certainly still is at the moment. I'm not in the camp that says you'll never have to see code again. That I don't think is going to happen. Okay, very quickly now, so I'm running out of time. Specs. This is what no one's doing well yet. So you want to be better than everybody else? These. Okay. The real bottleneck isn't writing code anymore. It's the communication with your Genie. It's providing the safeguards, the guardrails to your Genie. And we call that specifications. They capture a shared understanding of what you're building. The first place you'll start, if you go straight forward, and they're executable and testable and loss design. Okay, right, let's talk about what they look like and how you like them. First thing you're going to do is use the first stage of adoption, which is prompt-driven development. We've looked at that. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to write down your prompts. Prompt journaling, that's called. Prompt journaling is a way of creating a spec. It's probably not a very good spec. If you ever used it again or used it in a different context, you'll get a different result. But it's a start. You can then accompany it with a lot more information. You can document the parameters, the different parts of your application that are important to you, and you'll begin to get closer to a spec because the spec can reproduce the application with confidence. This is called spec-assisted development, where you're writing down the specifications of what you want. You're not just prompting anymore. You're creating collections of specifications that you can feed and help your AI Genie be aware of. This is Guy Bajani, who talks a lot about spec-driven development in AI augmented engineering. You're creating a source of truth of exactly how an application is created. There's a reason for that. In the first case, it'll mean you can guide your Genie better. You can give it better, longer memory of what good looks like. And that's called spec-assisted development. Spec-driven is more interesting. That's where you actually create the application because of a spec first. The spec becomes important. It's not just a journal of prompts. It is your definition of what good looks like and the applications you're trying to build. If you learn one thing from this talk today, look into spec-driven development. Okay, it's going to be, I think, the key skill for the next 5 years in software development. Going beyond that, and no one is here yet, is the promise of spec-centric development. Spec-centric literally says if the specification is good enough, and it's never complete, but it's good enough, then you can generate an application with any Genie just with the specs. And you'll get, to a large degree, a working behavioral application again, or service again. Regardless of language, regardless of underlying implementation, spec-centric is where Guy thinks we're going to go. Okay, so is it a philosophical shift? To a certain degree. We've moved from punch cards to assembly. I'm showing my age there. High-level languages now to specifications. Writing the specifications, literacy of specifications is a key skill for anyone who's going to be in software development in the next 5 years. So that's my prediction. Now, Guy would say that specs is all we need. I would say no. I would say specs and an awareness of what good looks like is what you need. I'll do the very last one. I have a very quick one for you. Some incredibly experienced developers I know spent months learning all the key combinations in their development editor. They were lightning quick. They spent an hour every day learning those key combos and writing code. Total waste of life. I said it at the time, I didn't know for sure. Now I know for sure. Total waste of time. Writing was never the bottleneck. Understanding, comprehending, reading, specifying, that's always been the challenge. Always been the challenge in software development. Now, getting those things right could not be more important. Okay, and just to mention, that's my prediction. I could be wrong. That's you want to know who that is? Quickly, last one. Francis Bacon. He was referring to marriage, by the way. Marriage is a hostage to fortune. Anyway, moving on. So this is just part one. I've talked about AI augmented coding in this one. I've got another talk. I've got another thing I can do on how to build agents themselves. I've been building agents for a long time now. This is where you're actually building workflows that are using LLMs to do incredible things. I'm very happy to talk you through it, but I've also got it all available on a blog, If you go to my site, you'll end up finding engineering agents. That's where it's all going to end up surfacing. I don't work on books that you have to buy anymore. I work on blogs that you can get for free. Don't worry, it's coming back. There's more of it coming. So there's also a software in Enchiridion. Based on my little book. This is a Stoic philosophy book, by the way. An Enchiridion, a handbook. It literally, Enchiridion means handbook. And I'm creating a handbook of everything I know about software development for free, available on my website as well. So those two things, go subscribe. They will always be free. I will never be putting them behind a paywall. If you want to donate, I am a poor, lowly engineer. But you don't need to. It's all going to be free. Because I genuinely think that the impact of software over the next 20 years is going to be even bigger than anything I've seen before. And you're going to be the ones leading it. Thank you very much. I use picture of Sophie here, my dog. She's got an attitude. Her attitude is everyone's a friend I haven't met yet. She's a very slow walk through town. I want to take the same attitude today. You see me about, I'll probably be about for a little while longer, another hour or so. Grab me, come talk to me. I'm being Sophie. Everyone's a friend I haven't met yet. Okay? Hope it's been useful. Thank you so much for that.